Up till now, I have avoided talking about former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's bid for the White House, primarily because I view her as I do most U.S. politicians, highly ambitious but extraordinarily unremarkable. However, that does not mean that she is not useful. Oh, not necessarily to me. Hang on, folks, and I'll explain what I mean here in just 1 second. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. For much of the Republican nomination season, such as it is, there's been a very predictable pattern that has been followed. Donald Trump has enjoyed a huge lead against the rest of the field, and the rest of the field is left to fight amongst themselves for who is in second place. Now, for the overwhelming majority of that Republican nominating season, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has held on to second place in both national polls and in state polls where the nominating process is concerned. However, as the wheels have come off his campaign, it's becoming obvious that he will not beat Donald Trump. Now, as the old saying goes, power abhors a vacuum. So, if not DeSantis, then who? Enter the former governor from South Carolina and former UN ambassador Nikki Haley. She has been picking up steam, albeit at a very dangerous price. So let's start our coverage with NBC News, and we read the following. Haley secures former Tim Scott's donors as her money momentum continues. She is snagging new donors amid a battle with Ron DeSantis for second place in a GOP primary campaign dominated by Donald Trump. Article written by Matt Dixon, Brian Schwartz, and CNBC and Jonathan Allen, we read, first comes the momentum, then comes the money. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's presidential bid started to pick up this first after the well-received early debate performances. Now, she's starting to vacuum up the second as an increasing number of GOP donors who oppose former President Donald Trump see her as the best alternative. That interest has picked up in recent weeks, including among donors who previously backed South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, but have started to raise money for Haley in the wake of her home state rival's exit from the race. Scott's exit set up a donor and supporter scramble in South Carolina as she continues to jockey with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for the title as the most viable candidate besides Trump, who still holds a large lead in the polls. Okay. Let's stop and talk about this for a second. The Republican donor class and certain members of the Republican establishment, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, and others, would love to find anybody other than Donald Trump to be the GOP nominee for president in 2024. Their documented hatred of Trump's policies and Trump personally caused them to be blind to certain realities. We'll get to those a little bit later. But the fact of the matter is, they don't want Trump under any circumstances to get this nomination, and they very sure don't want him going up against Joe Biden. So they have to find an alternative. Originally, they thought it was going to be Nikki Haley, but then the fade came off of her shine, and then along comes Ron DeSantis. Well, Ron DeSantis' campaign is about as effective as, well, never mind what on a boar hog it's effective like, but we'll just suffice to say it's falling apart. The donors are drifting away from him. The polls are going away from him. Everything is working against DeSantis. And now the GOP donor class is starting to come back around to Nikki Haley, who apparently, after her debate performances so far, is picking up steam again. How much so, in fact? Well, take a look at this. This is from Real Clear Politics, and I want to show you a poll that just came out of New Hampshire. Take a look at this. If you look at the average, Haley has slipped into second place behind Trump, ahead of Chris Christie and Ron DeSantis. Now, nationally, it doesn't look very good for Haley, or for that matter, anybody else, but the point is this: she's picking up steam in certain states, New Hampshire being one of them. She's hoping, if I had to guess, on a strong second place performance to propel her into South Carolina. The problem is she's still going to lose. So, what is all this about? Well, we'll get to that a little bit later as well. So, Tim Scott's donors are coming along. Who else is on for the party? Well, take a look at this. This came out of Axios yesterday. Spencer Zwick suits up for Team Haley. Article written by Hans Nichols. We read the following. Spencer Zwick, the money maestro for Senator Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential bid, is joining Nikki Haley's 2024 fundraising team, Axios has learned. Why it matters? Republican establishment folks are lining up behind the former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor as the GOP's best candidate to stop Donald Trump in the Republican primary and ultimately beat Biden in November. Ken Griffin, the GOP megadonor who's been shopping around for an alternative to Trump, hinted this week he is leaning toward Haley in 2024. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, who still considers himself a Democrat, has been having private conversations with Haley and thinks she has the potential to bring the country together, Axios scooped on Tuesday. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more. These people are not going to give money unless they've got a good reason to do it. And like I said, they don't have a reason to give it to Trump. They don't like him and they don't like his policies. But they do like Haley, as they think there is the possibility she could still pick up this nomination. And lest you think these mega donors are doing this just out of the top of their head, I want you to listen to a clip that played this morning on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business Network. Maria Bartiromo, the host, is having a conversation with Mark Penn, who's a pollster, and at one time polled for former President Bill Clinton. Take a listen to this, folks, because I think you're going to find this very enlightening.
So what do you think? You think there's a portion of voters out there who say, I'm voting Trump, but if there's a conviction, if there's something that goes awry with these trials, I'm going to move right into Haley?
I think there is about 25% of Republicans who would move right into Haley. Plus, there's another 25% of Republicans who are there for Haley now. So if this thing goes in that direction, I think she has a real chance, to strike and get this nomination.
Okay, folks, you just heard it from the mouth of a pollster. There's 25% that's for Haley right now. Another 25% would come to her if Trump is convicted of some kind of a crime. This is one of the last two desperate hopes of the GOP donor class and the establishment GOP Republican class. They are desperately holding on to the possibility that Donald Trump is convicted in a courtroom somewhere in America, and consequently, support will come off of him and it will roll to someone else. And if they've got Nikki Haley set up to be the alternative, that's where they're hoping the support rolls to. We'll talk about that theory a little bit later as well. Now, Nikki Haley, as I said, is like most politicians in America. Highly ambitious, extraordinarily unremarkable. And it would be one thing if she were unremarkable. The problem is she's unremarkable, but extraordinarily dangerous. I don't know if you've heard about some of her policy positions, but I think we need to talk about them because people need to understand exactly where this woman is coming from. I want to play you a clip that aired recently when Nikki Haley was on Fox News. And this is talking about the question of Americans and social media. Folks, if this doesn't give you an idea where she's coming from, I don't know what will. So take a listen to this, and then we're going to talk about it in a second.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots.
Okay, let's talk about this idea. Excuse me, former Governor Haley. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a thing called the Constitution, and more particularly, we have the Bill of Rights. And your idea would violate Fourth Amendment right to privacy, First Amendment freedom of speech, and First Amendment freedom of assembly. Register my name online as to who I am and on every social media website that I'm involved with. Are you crazy? And beyond that, who controls this database of information? The federal government? Oh, that's giving me a whole lot of comfort. The idea that the federal government would have one more tool at their disposal that if they wish to impinge upon my rights, my freedoms that are guaranteed under the United States Constitution, they'll know exactly where to find me and what social media sites I'm on, as if they don't know already. Needless to say, this cockeyed idea has received all kinds of condemnation from all over the place, the left, the right, and the middle. Show you an article here from Politico, just to give you an idea what people think. Headline: The implosion of Nikki Haley's social media crusade. Her call to ban anonymous posting is foolish, impractical, and downright unpatriotic. Article written by Jack Schaefer. I won't go through the whole thing, but you get my point. She's not making any friends or influencing people. Or if she is influencing people, she's influencing people not to like her and her presidential ambitions. But lest you think it stopped with her crazy notions about what should and should not be done with you as it relates to the internet, let me tell you, her love for the American worker is aboundingly unremarkable, much like her ideas and much like her presidential campaign. I want to play you a clip from the other day about when she was up in New Hampshire. Listen to this, and you tell me what you think, because I think this is going to tell you a lot about how she feels about the average American's ability to get ahead. So listen to this.
But what we need to do is reform it. So for too long, Republican and Democrat presidents dealt with immigration based on a quota. We'll take X number this year, we'll take X number next year. The debate is on the number. It's the wrong way to look at it. We need to do it based on merit. We need to go to our industries and say, what do you need that you don't have? So think agriculture, think tourism, think tech. We want the talent that's going to make us better. Then you bring people in that can fill those needs. That way you're actually emboldening your economy. Yes, the fabric of America is legal immigration, but let's get the right ones in that are going to make America better.
Excuse me, Governor Haley. If I'm a young, ambitious 20-something-year-old person with talents in a particular field or a particular area, shouldn't I get first preference over my ability to find a job in my field as opposed to you bringing in someone from outside the United States, looking at the CEO of a company saying, hey, do you think this guy's going to work out for you? Yeah, I think he's very talented. Well, hey, why don't you keep him around for a while? Let's get him a work visa. How is this helping the average American worker get ahead? If you're going to the CEOs of companies and flooding the system, flooding the labor pool with a bunch of people from outside the United States who are not even American citizens, how is this helping me? How's this helping anyone else? Young people, if this system's put into place, young people coming up with this in place are not going to get ahead. Why? Because it's going to be cheaper for CEOs of companies to get labor from outside the United States, give them work visas, and not have to pay them nearly as much in wages and benefits. And I and thousands of people and millions of people like me will suffer. Not because I don't have the talent to do the job, I won't have the ability to get one. This is the most cockeyed, anti-American, anti-worker proposal I think I may have ever heard. I mean, seriously, you're going to absolutely flood the labor pool with a bunch of people who you can pay them little to nothing. They have the benefit of having a work visa. The company will get the productivity, and the American worker will not get the wage. How, in any sane, rational system, does that make sense? So you understand what I mean. Now, Nikki Haley is ambitious. Nikki Haley is unremarkable, but yet Nikki Haley is extraordinarily dangerous. However, there is one ray of hope, and it's a point that's brought out by our friendly neighborhood pollster Richard Barris, who the front porch follows with great interest when he drops comments about something. I want to play you a clip where he appeared on Jack Posobiec's show, Human Events, on Real America's Voice Network. Folks, I think this gives us a little bit of hope about how far Nikki Haley is going to get. I want you to take a listen to this.
Nikki Haley's numbers right now, Jack, are fake. They're fake. They were DeSantis's numbers 6 months ago until people got to know him a little bit better. The minute they come up with the Nikki Haley story and the warmongering sinks in, they're going to flee from her like rats flee from the exterminator. They're going to run like hell. I mean, that's going to be the end of it. I honestly, and I got to be fair to DeSantis here, I think that DeSantis in the end, despite what the polls say right now, I think he would still perform better than her. I think she would end up being turned into a very technocrat kind of military industrial complex kind of candidate because that's who she is. And she'll get creamed. But neither one of them are going to get those voters out. And if you missed it, in case you missed it on Tuesday, that was the story of last week, that Republicans have a turnout problem. They cannot get these voters out without him.
Okay, there's a lot to digest in that, so let's get right into it. Barris does bring up a very valid point, and that is people don't know her yet. I'm going to say something that's going to sound horribly sexist, but it is nonetheless true. People are going to look at her, they're going to see the fact that she's a woman, an attractive female, who says certain of the right things, and they're going to be like, hey, yeah, Nikki Haley, she's great. She's awesome. Let's get her instead of Trump. We don't want that mean old bad man Orange, until they start realizing what her policy positions are. And then they're like, I don't know so much about this. Well, by that point, it's too late. She's the nominee, assuming, of course, that Trump is out of the way. And at that point, Team Biden, in spite of all their weaknesses, in spite of all their troubles, in spite of the fact that they have a candidate whose brains are the equivalent of soft-serve ice cream, will go on and beat the living dog crap out of her. Why? 2 reasons, and Barris brings them both up. Number one, they will be able to paint her as the Republican technocrat that she is. She's establishment through and through. She's a foreign policy warmonger. She's basically George W. Bush in heels. But secondly, there's another reason why she'll lose to Joe Biden. And that's this. The Republicans will not come out to vote for anybody other than Trump. And not just Republicans. Remember, Donald Trump does one thing that Republicans have failed to do now for years in a presidential election. He can bring African Americans, Hispanics, non-college educated whites, working class whites to the polls. They won't vote for a Republican, but they will vote for Donald Trump. So I don't care what the polls say right now about Nikki Haley beating Joe Biden. Forget it. It ain't real. It's an illusion. And Barris is right. Once people find out what her policy positions are, oh, and believe me, Democrats and Democrat-aligned groups will help you understand what her policy positions are. They will avalanche Nikki Haley in a barrage of ads telling everybody exactly what she thinks. And when everybody gets a belly full of that, they're going to walk away from her as fast as they possibly can. And Joe Biden will cruise to re-election. So for all you Republican donors out there and establishment types that are thinking you've got to find some kind of alternative to Trump, forget it. It's not going to work. You will lose the presidency. But then again, does it really matter to you if you win? But that's what I think about it. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number one, if you are not a subscriber to my channel, please do so. Right now, YouTube is trying to, how shall we say, push me down. So I would love to get as many people subbing to my channel as I possibly can. Number two, please leave a comment below. I would love to know what you think about all this. Number three, please share the video around. Number four, hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you're always aware when new videos, new live streams are coming out. And finally, please give me a thumbs up. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative, and I'll see you next time.